Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Tonight, America after the war. Reporting from NBC News headquarters in New York is Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. As the last of the Allied prisoners were flown out of Iraq today, Saddam Hussein's Republican Guard finally found someone they could defeat. Iraqi citizens determined to overthrow Saddam. There is continuing turmoil tonight, and a number of Western journalists still are missing in southern Iraq, although some did get calls out today. But the big news for 15 American prisoners, their freedom. NBC's Arthur Kent is back at his post in Saudi Arabia tonight. Arthur?
Tom, their doctors say the freed U.S. POWs are in only fair condition, that some of them were slapped around by their Iraqi captors, and that they are suffering from malnutrition. But the big bright spot in their prognosis, they're going home.
Today's flight to freedom for U.S. and Allied prisoners of war began this morning in Baghdad. Earlier, 294 Iraqi prisoners had left Saudi Arabia in the other side of the POW exchange. For General Norman Schwarzkopf, who greeted the freed Americans in Riyadh, it was another celebration of victory over Saddam Hussein.
Every one of them's a hero.
How'd they look to you?
They looked happy to be home, happy to be in freedom. That's the way they look.
Army Major Rhonda Cornum was captured late in the ground war when her medevac helicopter was shot down, killing 5 fellow crewmen. Others had been held longer, and they savored this day. Tonight, a step closer to home, boarding the hospital ship Mercy in the Gulf.
How do you feel? Great.
Italian pilot Gianmarco Bellini was shot down on the first day of the war. He says he's fine and embraces his commanding general. U.S. Air Force Captain William Andrews grins as he heads for treatment on board. But physicians say at least 3 of the former POWs show signs of mistreatment at the hands of their Iraqi captors.
Only eardrum injuries.
Eardrum injuries?
People were cuffed so that they perforated their eardrums.
U.S. doctors say their patients' recovery will be helped by their cheerful reaction to freedom.
The 6 U.S. soldiers and airmen released Monday voted to remain in the Gulf until their compatriots joined them tonight. After a day or 2 of treatment, they'll likely all be flown back to the U.S. to celebrate freedom at home. Tom?
Thank you, Arthur. Plans for the homecoming for all American troops are still underway tonight. NBC's Fred Francis is at the Pentagon with more on that now. Fred?
Tom, the services are planning for huge celebrations at East Coast bases beginning tomorrow and Friday, but foul weather in Saudi Arabia has slowed the airlift home.
2 experimental aircraft, which played a surprising role in the war, did return to Melbourne, Florida today. These old Boeing 707s were crammed with new top-secret air-to-ground radar equipment. The sophisticated radar, operated by civilians and soldiers, was able to track Iraqi tanks and other weapons 100 miles from the battlefield. Pentagon officials say the experimental system, built by Grumman Aerospace, helped to kill hundreds of Iraqi weapons. Military men say most of Iraq's 4,200 tanks will never return to Iraq.
We now have over 3,700 tanks either destroyed, damaged, or captured. We have over 2,400 armored personnel carriers and over 2,600 artillery pieces, either captured, damaged, or destroyed.
That's not a final count. To get that and clean up the battlefield, tens of thousands of American troops will have to stay overseas. But many of the first combat veterans, the wounded, are already home or on the way. Representatives from each of the services are awaiting airlift. Elements of the 82nd Airborne are scheduled to arrive at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Friday or Saturday. And the Air Force will celebrate the return of some fighters and bombers at Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, on or before the weekend.
Plans for the president to welcome some of the troops this week have been scrapped for the moment. He may, however, greet some of the freed POWs, but one official said this is a time for the soldiers to see their families, not the commander-in-chief. Tom?
Thank you, Fred Francis. In Iraq...